Welcome everybody to the age of GW sponsored piracy. A little while ago GW released another battle patrol which this time focused on pirates, specifically Aeldar Corsairs. And not many people are aware of this, but in the universe of 40k there are a surprising amount of piracy for all manner of races like Space Marine, Night Lords, Kroot, all manner of weird sceners. But today, we're going to be looking specifically at the Aeldar Corsairs. At the end of the video, I will read a bit of a short story that I found that absolutely rocks, and I gotta admit that while researching this video, I must say that I've developed quite a lot for the main character, Prince Yriel. But anyways, we're going to be looking at that. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, and thank you everybody for listening. Aeldar Corsairs, or as the Eldar call them, Aranthe, are a faction of rogue pirate fleets of outcasts who reject the rigid paths of the craft world Asunari, embracing a life of plunder, adventure, and unchecked freedom across the stars. Short of fully descending into the depravity of their dark cousins, the Drukhari, the Corsairs hail from a diverse Eldar origins, such as disaffected craftworld exiles, often those who already walk the path of the outcast or the path of the scout, exploratory fleets, Drukhari fugitives who have been forced out of Comorak for all manner of reasons. One of my personal favorites are Drukhari who are actually raiders but are undercover as Corsairs, or even ex-Harlequins who have become disillusioned by the esoteric battle of the Laughing God. There are even those of the Yunari, the death-worshipping Eldars who have left behind their religion and who has decided to become a cool-ass space pirate. And for some reason, we also see restless exodites, even though I don't get how you would ever get tired of riding a space raptor. But anyways. The Corsairs roam the webway and the void of space in vast hidden fleets, lurking in nebula, asteroid belt, and at the fringes of civilized space, waiting for glory, loot, and trophies. A member of the Aeldar Corsairs are unfettered by craftworld discipline, as I mentioned before, and the system of the paths, meaning that they're seen flaunting all manner of wild aesthetics such as outlandish armor adorned with alien pelts or scales, and a lot of them even use surgical implants like neuro augmenters and exotic synthetic familiars from the far corners of the galaxy. A lot of them even use weaponry of other races that suits their fancy. And I gotta point out here, the Eldar is such an advanced race that the only other race in the universe with weaponry that compares to them would be the Necrons. So the very idea of seeing an Eldar using any other race's weapon, well, that's not for efficiency. That is solely based on style. They have not fallen as far as their dark cousins, so many Corsairs are still able to use and carry the emblematic Soulstone to invade the gruesome fate of being devoured by Slaanesh upon their death. I will get into that whole thing that is a lot to do I will get into that at some point, but that has basically to do with the fact that the Eldar, due to having created Slaanesh, are all under the influence and curse of this god, and the god waits in the warp in order to devour all of them eventually. I could probably make a video what a soulstone is and what it's like being inside of one and what it's actually used for, as it is both a fate that is terrible but infinitely better than becoming a meal for a chaos god. The Corsairs hire themselves out on mercenaries, but betray everyone gleefully, striking merchant convoys over battle fleets and betraying any other race employing them, even though they are less likely to do so to any member of another Eldar faction, as they still share some sort of bond to their kin. Fleets functions as nomadic fiefdoms led by charismatic Corsair princes and princesses. The top leaders of a Corsair fleet proclaim some sort of nobility and influence, which means that these Eldari who has the position are ambitious and cutthroat above anyone else, making a small kingdom where they rule like a pirate king or queen. They command absolute loyalty from their followers and decides where the fleet raids next. These pseudo-royalty are guarded by elite Bladesworn retinues and are advised by Corsair barons, which you could consider to be lesser captains of individual ships, making that when these individuals are deciding anything, they are holding entire courts with all manner of colorful pirate and Corsair Eldar, which is just a wonderful image in my head. Among its military might, there are specialized bands of warriors such as Reavers, which has the role of infantry, Sky Reavers, which possess technology effectively making them into jump troopers. Ghostwalker are members of the fleet who utilize long-range sniper weaponry, while Cloud Dancers own lethal jet bikes, making it overall a force that is focused on lethality and speed. When it comes to the warp, they have powers just like their Craftworld kin, in that regard that their psychic potency are not yet diminished, unlike the Drukhari. So, on every inside of every Corsair fleet, you will find seers that are called Void Dreamers, that are using their powers for navigations amongst the stars, but even more rare and precious are the Wayseekers, who use their prized knowledge of the ancient webway to navigate these really useful and really ancient and dangerous parts. Some notable bands that among Aeldar Corsairs, which basically has become the same force thanks to Prince Yriel, are Xi'an's Black Raiders, the Sunblade Brotherhood, and Sky Serpents. And, now that I mentioned him, the most famous Corsair warband, the Eldritch Raiders, led by Prince Yriel, the main man himself. Prince Yriel of Lianden are known far and wide as the ultimate Corsair legend. Born into the ancient Ulfranas bloodline on the Craftworld of Lianden, Yriel rose like a comet on the path of the mariner, meaning that he from the get-go learned the ways of ship navigation and the utilization of the webway for travel. He was considered a naval genius unmatched by any of his peers, but early on his path, it was obvious that he was different than the rest of his disciplined kin, as he was way more emotional and way more brash than any other. In M41, he crossed a splinter fleet of Hive Naga, but he did so in a fit of rage, and he genocided an entire planet, and that, due to his recklessness and staying from his path, got him into a lot of trouble with his craft world. I will get into a bit more of why this is such a big deal, as humanity constantly genocides planets and do all manner of horrible things, especially against the Tyranids. But when I talk a bit about the path system, you will understand why this of walking away from your path or taking action that goes against it is such a big deal to the Eldar. There was also where he battled against the Chaos Lord Calorax. His action left Lianden wide open and vulnerable, earning him his exile status despite of his result, as the Eldar is a race who constantly looks to the future and can even spy upon the future, and that means that they look at how much could have happened as much as what actually happened. However, all of this did not break Yriel. He forged the Eldritch Raiders by swallowing up rival war bands like the previous mentioned Xi'an Black Raiders and the Scarlet Command war band. This skyrocketed his power and influence, turning him into the galaxy's most feared and powerful Corsair prince. Then came the doom of Lianden. Hive Fleet Kraken was devouring everything in its path, and despite his exile and disregard by the members of his Craftworld kin, Yriel was found roaring with his fleet, destroying horrible void void organisms and burning bioships with lances of pure starlight, reaving an absolute toll on the Great Devourer. Just imagine this space battle with his ship zipping around, shooting all manner of terrible, terrible creatures, all while being a passionate pirate captain. I absolutely love it. Even even consider this, that when the prince went to ground, he was wading through the horrors of the Tyranids, and he ended up claiming the Spear of Twilight, a powerful crone sword forged from the finger bones of the elder goddess Morai Heck herself. This weapon is channeling the fury of a dying sun, which allowed him to push back waves of chittering flesh. He would in the end challenge a mighty hive tyrant, but even such a beast would see itself laid low by having its skull split open by the Corsair Prince and shattering the entire swarm, saving Liandon. But while the craft world was saved from the brink, this spear bound itself to him forever, slowly consuming his soul from within, as no weapon of such potency can be wielded without exacting a price. This, however, did little to deter the Corsair Prince, and he kept fighting while he finally did. This did not deter the Corsair Prince, but he finally fell while he was fighting against and destroying a demonic space hulk. And this, once again, might sound like a small feat, or where you would think, why would such a cool guy die to something that seems so little? And I have to point out, Space Marines, in order to do anything to Space Hulk, sends in heroic characters and Terminator strike forces, and often fail and are pushed back, and generally see Space Hulks as some of the worst things that can enter a local system. And that is without considering that this was a demonically possessed Space Hulk, meaning that Yriel did something that entire heroic strike forces of Space Marine heroes and Terminators were not able to do. However, this would not be the end of Prince Yriel, as this is where Yrene encountered him. She would use her powers over the Eldar life and death cycle, resurrecting him using a hidden power within the spear, and at the same time revealing to him the true nature of the weapon as a crone sword. Joining forces with her, it would however not be long before Yriel soured at Ynnari's zealots and their worship of, basically being a death cult. So he grabbed his fleet, including his trusty Void Dreamer Karstev, and vanished into the Nightmare Gulf on a shadowy quest on behalf of a Harlequin, chasing lost artifacts. That is Prince Yriel, Pirate King, doomed savior, and restless legend, and in the grim darkness of the far future, he burns like a bright defiant star. The Spear of Twilight is one of the legendary blades forged from the severed fingers of Morai Heck. I think I mentioned this before. She is the crone goddess of fate and secrets among the Eldari myth. And in these legends, Morai Heck decided ultimate wisdom by drinking the knowledge that was in her own blood, and as such she tricked the war god Cain into cutting off her hand. This is also why Cain is called the blooded-handed god. Afterwards, the smith god Vol gathered all of the fingers and forged them into 5 crone swords. These relics hold immense power over life, death, and destiny, and when wielded, there are very few weapons in the galaxy who can match them. They have become key to a ritual to awaken Yned, the Eldari god of the dead, and that means that Yrene and the Ynnari seek them to fully manifest their deity, and save, or allegedly save, their race. I personally think that they're gonna doom it, but that will be another video. The Spear of Twilight is unique among them, as it has been reshaped into a modified singing spear, which is usually a cyclically charged weapon like those used by warlocks. It is throwable and is humming with warp energy. However, inside of it burns the energies of a dying sun, a node of raw stellar fury that makes its attack devastating in any battle, as any foes that faces the prince must stand against the heat of this weapon. The spear had for ages been kept locked in a stasis field within the shrine of Ultranesh, where the keepers of the weapon feared its curse, that once claimed and wielded, it binds eternally to the wielder and slowly burns out their life force and immortal soul. But no pirate is a pirate without a boat, and neither is Prince Yriel. The Flame of Asuryan is a legendary flagship, and is the main flagship of the Eldritch Raiders and one of the most storied vessels of the entire Eldar fleet. It has the classification of dragon ship, meaning that it's a heavy warship of Eldar make and stand as the pinnacle of Eldari voidcraft design. Sleek, fast, and wreathed in graceful solar sail that catch stellar winds like living wings. These ships are built for speed, precision strikes, and overwhelming firepower, delivering in lightning raids exactly the kind of war Yriel likes to fight. The prince, while he was still just an admiral, named this vessel, and even then it stood as a jewel of the craft world's armada. And when Yriel was cast out, he didn't exactly leave empty-handed, as he decided to take the Flame of Asuryan with him, along with his loyal crew and any other Eldar who refused to abandon the prince. That act turned the ship from a craft world defender into the beating heart of the Eldritch Raiders. The ship has a story which put many other vessels to shame. In a brutal war against Chaos Raiders, it dueled massive enemy flagship like the Riot Hunter, tearing rents in the hull with pinpoint pulsar lance fire while evading torpedoes that would have crippled. During the Doom of Lianden against Highfleet Kraken, the Flame of Asuryan led by charge, smashing through a Tyranid Bioship and breaching their synapse network from orbit. And in the era Indomitus, after Uriel's death and resurrection by Yvrain, the ship remained his. It even strained against psychic mooring webs in Lianden's dock while Yriel argued with the council, eager to break free, meaning that Yriel and his ship could be considered one. Most recently, it has carried him into the Nightmare Gulf on behalf of the Harlequins, specifically the Mask of the Midnight Sorrow, chasing an ancient Eldari artifact to strike at chaos. I have this little headcanon that I really like, and it means that I have to touch a bit about how soulstones works. Essentially, soulstones are a matrix that catches a soul upon the death of an Eldar, meaning that the soul gets trapped, but it doesn't go to the warp. A lot of Eldar tech is based around integrating soulstones into technology or constructs, and I kind of like the idea, even though that it has not been confirmed, that the Flame of Asuryan essentially has soulstone integrated into it, meaning that when an Eldar in the service of Prince Yriel dies, they become a part of the ship and a part of the crew. I have brought up that the craft world Eldar are different than Corsairs in nature, and I should explain a bit further. Craft world life is like willingly choosing to live in an iron cage of unbending discipline, using dedication, meditation, and the soulstone to keep Slaanesh at bay, or as the Eldar calls her, she who thirsts. The reason for this is that the Eldar in nature are creatures of fantastical depths of emotions. Combined with the fact that all Eldar are inherently psychic, it is hard for us humans to understand the level of emotion that they can go to when experiencing life. This means that when a member of the race steps outside of this cage, very quickly the fire within them ignites. The ancient and natural hunger for sensation, for freedom, for glory and grandeur, it all comes surging back like a tide. And that is exactly when a Corsair is born. Many of them start out as outcasts, Eldar with restless soul, who are now by their society considered to walk the path of the outcast and simply never come home. There are entire exploratory fleets that push too deep into the webway chasing legends and forgotten roots until one day the craft world realizes that its sons and daughters are gone forever. They've tasted freedom and they choose to steer this route. But the Corsair fleet draws from every corner of their shattered kin. Within the fleet you'll find Drukhari fugitives, exiles from Comorak who grew tired of the constant betrayal and the arenas of endless torment, and who even those who crossed the wrong Archon and had to run. You'll see disillusioned harlequins who turned their back on the great dance, wearying of serving only Chekorak's riddles. Restless exodites who for some reason grew bored of riding dinosaurs and longed for the stars again, and even former Yennari who lost faith in Yvrane's promises and refused to march under the banner of their death god. And of course, simply those Eldars who are fleeing punishment, whether from a Craftworld Council or a Camarad cabal. Once they break free, they don't settle. They become nomads of the void. Their fleets drift like ghosts, hidden in glowing hearts of nebulas, anchored amongst asteroid fields that no one else would dare enter. When they set out, the Corsairs come back heavy with alien treasure, Xenos relics, glittering plunder from 100 worlds, and trophies that will make even the most stoic Farseer raise an eyebrow. They bring back stories of impossible daring, boarding action against Orc cruisers, duels with Necron pharaohs, and escapes from the jaws of Tyranid hive fleets. But most of all, they bring back hope and a reminder of what the Eldar used to be. Yet Slaanesh hungers for their souls. The domes of Liandon wept amber light as the Tyranid swarm breached the final Wraithbone barrier. Bioplasma scorched the air, and carnifexes tore through the aspect warriors like parchment, and the once mighty craft world trembled under the weight of endless Kyphon and Claw. The avatar of Cain lay broken, its fiery essence guttering out. Hope itself seemed to die with it. Prince Yriel, the exiled Corsair Lord, returned in fury and strode through the carnage at the head of his Eldritch host, his cloak snapping behind him like a black flame, his eyes burning with the same reckless pride that had once cost him his rank. He had brought his fleet crashing into the Hive Fleet's flank in the void, shattering bioships and buying precious time. But now the true battle raged on the craft world's surface. The Synapse creature loomed ahead, a towering hive tyrant, its 4 massive bone blades dripping venom, psychic screams ripping from its elongated skull to drive the lesser beast into a frenzy. Around it, the swarms surged as one mind, unstoppable. Uriel's gaze fixed on the ancient shrine of Ultranash, guided by shadowed whispers from the Harlequin's Sulandri Veilwalker years before. He had known that this moment would come. He approached the stasis field that held the relic and, without hesitation, shattered the ancient seals. The spear of twilight slid free from his hands, light bent around its blade, not bright, but deep and terrible, as it drank the very light of twilight from the stars. Power coursed through him, ancient and hungry, the captured death throes of a dying sun. He felt it immediately, the curse awakening, a slow ember in his soul that would one day consume him entirely. He did not pause. "For Liandon!" he roared, voice cutting through the psychic static like a laser. "For Ultranash!" Thank you so much for listening. It was an absolute joy to research this, as the Aeldar Corsairs I didn't actually know that much about, but, well, I can highly recommend it. They are cool. I never really liked the Eldar much, as I generally don't like the idea of high stoic elves that don't really do much besides from looking into the future. So it's really nice to see a faction of the Eldar besides the Drukhari that has emotions. And one can definitely say that Prince Yriel has this. He might be a bit on the side of like noble bright when it comes to him potentially being considered grimdark, but hey, in a grimdark setting, you can have sprinkles of Noble Bright because it just makes everything better. It makes the darkness darker and the light even brighter, which is just wonderful. I love him. I like him. I think you should all look at him. And if you enjoyed this, let me know and consider subscribing. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.